Well, what's this? Notice this your trauma?
Good evening, laddies, lorkers, and horkers, and welcome to the click you smell absolutely traumatized today. And don't let anyone else lie to you and tell you otherwise. Today, we're digging into one of my favorite subreddits, r/TraumatizeThemBack. Have you ever encountered a Karen or a shitty colleague or someone giving you a rough time and you just turn that trauma right back on them? Well, then this subreddit is for you. Let's get into it, baby. Enjoy. Ooh, it's so squeaky, isn't it? That's what my back sounds like now when I'm 30. r/TraumatizeThemBack. I exposed my ex-husband's lies to my son. When our son was around 8 years old, my husband started acting different, more secretive and accusing. Me talking with a guy friend or being friendly to the barista equals straying eyes. Oh, is it this kind of thing where a cheater is like projecting cheating onto someone else and like blowing everything out of proportion? Is that where this is going? I found out a couple of months later he was having an affair with his coworker. Oh, you see, I fucking called it! The Nostradamus of dramatic Reddit stories. Yum. I immediately filed for divorce and left him, and we had joint custody of our son. Of course, I constantly reassured him that the divorce wasn't his fault. I didn't want him to hate his dad because of his love for me. So I just lied about the reason and said that adults grow apart sometimes, and that's just how it is. Well, you grew apart and right into the bed of your coworker, I suppose. But for some reason, he was never convinced. Well, I now know the reason. Years have passed, and I just found out that my son thinks the divorce was my fault. I was livid when he mentioned it to me. Not mad at him, of course. He told me that ever since I started dating my new boyfriend, his dad revealed the truth of the divorce, which is that I got paranoid, disrupted his work life, became distant, and best of all, I cheated on him! Oh, you see, it's a little Uno reverse card. This is like that kind of thing where cheaters project their insecurities, but like times 100. I can tell you right now that I did not. I confronted that pile of poo and he got flustered. Started screaming cuss words at me, cussing out his own son in the process. Oh, then you know that he's the good guy in the process. He gets called out on his lies and he starts screaming at the kids. Quality husband. He told me that it's all because I didn't forgive him and that I am rubbing my new boyfriend in his face. I am literally not. I don't want the two of them mingling. So of course, I come back home and tell my son the whole truth. He's refusing to talk to his father now and doesn't want to go over to his house. I am being cussed out by his side of the family for ripping a father away from his son, but I couldn't care less. I always find it so fascinating when families have the back of someone that is so obviously in the wrong, like at every single turn. First off, he cheated, which blew up the marriage, and then he was lying in front of the kid that it was the other person that cheated. And that's what led to him being called out for his own cheating. Like, for God's sake, you could have even gotten away with, at least in front of the kids, with your own cheating, if you just didn't decide to lie. You know, you did the wrong thing at so many turns, and eventually it led to the point of it firing back at you, and now people are like, oh my god, it's actually not his fault. So it's like tripling down on this. It's never his fault. It's someone else who didn't forgive him for cheating, and then he was lying, and then it backfired on him, but that's not his fault. And now the family is also coming to just rescue me, like, it's your fault for just, like, not wanting to be lied about and called a cheater. These people are so fascinating. Update. My son has gone fully no contact with his bio dad. As for his emotional state, the shock has subsided a bit and has been replaced with anger. When he made his decision final, I got a death threat from my ex-mother-in-law. My ex-sister-in-law started harassing my own parents, and my ex-husband showed up at my door angry and drunk. These sound like absolutely quality people, man. Oh my god. I have kept records of everything that they've done until now. I called the police and had my ex escorted off the property when he refused to leave and started to get violent with my boyfriend. I thought about hiding all this from my son because he's had enough of a shock. I figured that lying to him in the first place is what got us into this mess, so he knows everything. I mean, that's probably a good idea. You know, you shouldn't dump all the troubles in your life and stuff on your kids, but when stuff gets to the point that you're receiving death threats from your mother-in-law, maybe it's good that people around you know what's going on, right? So all of a sudden, when your drunk biological dad is dragged off the porch by police officers, they kind of know why, right? Because otherwise, you just know that one of these people will fill that gap with something else, most likely lies, as they have done in the past. People like this seem to always fill those gaps of stuff that you choose to not share to spare someone with lies to make it worse. So don't leave it up to them to tell the story, basically. The good news is that they have stopped harassing me for the time being. I guess the police escorting my ex away from my house was a wake-up call for them. Yeah, and then they also have a police record. So if they keep this up and you, for example, file for a restraining order, it's gonna be way easier to get it through, because it's like, hey, here are the threats they have sent me, they were literally dragged off my property, etc., etc. Like, the paper trail is getting pretty hard to deny. They contacted me once to ask me not to press charges, and haven't contacted me since. I mean, that's good. That means they realized they took it too far. Jesus Christ. I feel so bad for the kid in this situation. You know, he all of a sudden finds out that his dad was lying about why the family broke apart in the first place. And then all of this happens. All of a sudden, the entire side of the family goes completely unhinged and starts sending threats and getting drunk and violent and dragged away by police. Like, oh my god, I can't imagine what that is like. At least he knows what that side of the family is like and can like process it in a healthy way, but make sure he also has someone to talk about that is like outside of the family. Maybe like a therapist, for example, just to process it and that kind of stuff, because this sort of stuff can fester if you don't like let it out and process it and you know let it run its course, so to say. I feel so bad for the kid. I hope he's doing better. Classic fuck around and find out. He became exposed as the bad guy while trying to frame you. I am glad your kid is smart enough to know who the liar is and who the victim is. I'm just thankful I didn't fail as a parent and managed to raise a good person. OP, you didn't fail as a parent. You just set the record straight. No, you definitely didn't fail as a parent. In fact, you're the one who tried to move on from everything peacefully, even though your partner was the one who betrayed you and cheated and was the one who tore apart the family, so to say. You were the one who didn't want to bring the kids into this and said like, no, people just grow apart, no one is cheating, blah blah blah. But then the other person, who was the cheater, was the one who accused you of cheating and tearing apart the family. And once the lies blew up, the entire family became completely unhinged. So, no, you didn't do anything wrong. You know, you can only pull stuff like this for so long and not have it blow up. I am just repeating your words, you sexist old dingbat. So a couple years ago, I, 38F, was grocery shopping with my 1-year-old son when I walked past a couple in their late 60s. They were looking at my little boy, and I assumed they were thinking the usual,
"Oh, what a cute little baby,"
kind of thing. When the man grinned at me and said, "Hey, thanks for having a baby and not getting fat." What? The guy kept walking, but for a second I just froze in my tracks. Then I turned to say, "Hey, that was rude," and he called over his shoulder, "No, it wasn't." Grossed out, I grabbed a few more items, then went to self-check. A minute later, they walked into the self-checkout area too. The woman looked like she wanted to disappear, but the man walked right up behind me and loudly announced, "It was a compliment." So I swiveled around and announced right back, no, it was sexist and weird. Because seriously, I lucked out, losing the baby weight quickly. Lucked out. Shaming the millions of women who didn't luck out isn't the same as complimenting me. You weird, gross, objectifying lunatic. And also the absolute weirdness of doing this with strangers in a grocery store, right? If it's someone that you know closely and like you know that, oh, they have been going to the gym 5 days a week, then it's pretty safe to compliment. It's like, man, your gym progress is really paying off. But otherwise, if it's someone you don't know, and you also necessarily don't know the reason why they're losing weight, and also doing it in this really, really weird, creepy way in a grocery store? Nah, bro, come on. At this point, all our announcing had garnered some attention. Several women around me started asking what he had said. So once the guy's poor wife was safely out of earshot, she had ditched him at self-check and run for the door. I repeated the whole exchange, right in front of him. They were like, ew, that's gross. And the man ditched his cart of bran muffins or whatever and speed walked to the exit. A little bit of peer pressure and social shaming. Oh, yes, indeed. My only regret. This guy's poor wife didn't deserve any of this. I hope she tore him a new one in the car. It takes a special kind of person to manage to turn an entire grocery store full of strangers against you. You didn't invite me? That's a bullet dodged. This is a story from when I was just a little girl. I want to say 8 or 9 at the oldest. I was undiagnosed autistic at that age and went through a lot of the typical social isolation and bullying kids in that situation do. But I had that fun overlap of zero social awareness that meant I often had no idea I was even getting bullied, and that resulted in me actually being a pretty content kid. Oh my god, I kind of feel that one. I was having this conversation with one of my gym bros the other day, and he said, yeah, some of my classmates came up to me before we graduated and said that they had tried to bully me for 3 years. And I was like, what? It just reminded me of that. It's kind of funny. Like, sure, the social isolation also comes with a certain immunity to some, like, more low-key BS. It's really funny in a way. I actually had this happen too, with like an addition to a friend group who for some reason didn't like me, or they assumed I was a certain way when I wasn't, you know, when people make presumptuous things about you. And they didn't like me and they tried to exclude me from things and that kind of stuff. And I didn't know this until like many years later when someone else was like, hey, so it's a good thing Blorp got over hating you, right? And I was like, what? I hadn't even noticed. I was just minding my business, man. It's so funny. It came to a head when a bully in my class did the following. Bully.
Hey, Pete, I'm having my birthday sleepover this weekend and it's going to have a cake and loads of presents.
Oh, that sounds like it will be fun. Lying. I hated parties, and this kid in particular.
I'm inviting your sisters and everyone else in class.
Oh, that's nice of you.
You aren't invited.
Oh, thank God. I only realized in the last few years that she was not, in fact, doing me a favor by not putting me in a situation where I would give up my Saturday for a loud, boring party celebrating her, a person I secretly disliked. I was 100% sincere, though, out of the whole conversation. She didn't know what to say, so walked away in a huff. She tried complaining to the teacher that I was being mean to her. Hey, teacher. I tried to bully her by being excluding about my birthday party. And she didn't take that seriously. So she's the one she didn't acknowledge my bullying. Tell her she needs to acknowledge my bullying. She's being mean. Which ended with her being forced to apologize to me. At the time, I thought she was just sorry for storming off in the middle of our conversation. You know, as for example, a dyslexic person, I usually think it's kind of cringe when people are like, ooh, dyslexia is my superpower. Like, I sometimes mildly misspell things. That is hardly a superpower. It's mundanely annoying at best. But this is kind of like the autistic superpower, isn't it? Like immunity to certain bullying. And then people get really upset when you don't acknowledge the bullying. If you want to talk about like neurospicy superpowers, this is certainly one of them. The teen insults me in public. Then his dad shows up. Minding my own business in a clothing store, looking to get new bras. I am tall and thin, and some punk teen made a comment of,
I don't think she needs those.
I am flat-chested. He to his crust buddy. I pull the classic, your dad didn't seem to mind when I f***ed him, and the boy continues to and I walk away without looking at him. As I walked away, I heard a voice behind me say my name. It was a dude I met online 14 years ago on a dating site. It took me a minute to recognize him. He asked how I was doing, and I just told him I just got married. He was polite and just happy to say hello. I looked past him, and the boys looked horrified. I excused myself and checked out. I think that was the dad of one of the boys. I had indeed railed his dad. This is that kind of story where I'm like, I wonder if this actually happened because the chances are so slim, but I really hope it did happen because it paints such a beautiful picture in my mind.
You're lucky I tolerate you.
My roommate got a taste of her own medicine. I had a college roommate who loved to remind me constantly that she was doing me a favor by letting me live there, despite us splitting rent 50-50. I mean, that sounds like a favor to both people, to be honest. Usually that's kind of like the point of roommates. She would say, you're lucky I tolerate you, whenever I asked for basic respect, like not eating my food. One day, she came home begging me to help her get an extension in an assignment because she overslept and missed class. Normally, I would have helped, but instead, I looked her dead in the eye and said, you're lucky I tolerate you. Then I went into my room, closed the door, and blasted music. She did not get her extension. She also never used that line on me ever again. I mean, that's just a funny classic little karma moment. Treating people like poo will typically mean they're not that eager to help you in the future. You are honestly replaceable. A few years ago, my best friend, or so I thought, and I had a falling out over something small. At least, I thought it was small. In the heat of that argument, she hit me with,
"You're honestly replaceable. Anyone could be a better friend than you."
I remember laughing it off to her face, but crying later that night. Yeah, that's a very hurtful comment. Oof. Those words stuck with me for months. Fast forward to last month, we reconnected at a mutual friend's party. The vibe was chill, so I didn't expect any drama. But later, she came to me venting about her new friend who had stopped hanging out with her. Without thinking, I replied, "Maybe she realized you're replaceable." The silence was instant. Her smile dropped, eyes widened, and she said,
"Wow, that's so hurtful."
I just raised an eyebrow and said, "Exactly. That's what you told me back then." She stammered, got defensive, and stormed off. Haven't heard from her since, but I bet she finally understands how deep words can cut. You know, it's things like this that make me wonder if her other friend also cut her off because of something mean she said in the heat of the moment, right? There seems to be kind of a pattern here. A pro tip, when dealing with medical diagnostics, do EDS body horror. I was in my new doctor's office trying to restart the diagnosis process to get an EDS diagnosis. I have tried and failed to be 3 separate times because of waitlists and moving cities before I could be assessed. I am talking years in the same city. Older male doctor. He initially scoffed and looked unimpressed when I started asking about the diagnosis process and my symptoms. He literally started saying, "You mean the extremely rare genetic," in a condescending tone. Good old medical sexism for the win. Then I hyperextended my arms and moved my trachea, larynx? Nailed that one, trust me. I'm not a doctor. Area back and forth, and he immediately stopped talking and started the referral process. He then came closer and moved my larynx himself and tried doing the same on himself. Then I bent my neck back as far as I could go, and he literally grimaced. I told him I don't pass the Brighton score, but I have foot papples and other symptoms. I told him about my injury history. I told him about my other conditions that are comorbid with. He gave me a referral. The hack was there all along. Disgust and horrify them.
And the medical world is yours. 506 praying emoji.
Oh yeah? You don't want to refer me? Check this out.
She is dead. Okay, so I, non-binary 26, am disabled. I have severe chronic migraines and really bad epilepsy that does prevent me from working. My mother, 45F, was the one that helped take care of me and was my representative payee. She passed May the 7th this year, and my aunt, 53F, has been living with us since January, became my new representative payee and caregiver. Anyway, fast forward to last week. My aunt and I were in a store, Pigwig, getting groceries for the next few days. She goes one aisle, I go down the next one to grab something. Now, and this is important, I am in pajamas. It was a bad day and I couldn't be bothered to change into regular clothes, so I stayed in my pajamas. Black shirt, black floral shorts. I am getting what I needed when another woman enters the aisle, and this woman, maybe 50s or 60s, hard to tell, just gives me a disgusted look before she starts scolding me for wearing pajama pants in public. Have you seen r/people of Walmart? Wearing a couple pajama pants ain't that bad. I have seen what some people wear to grocery stores. You should be happy they're wearing pants at all. She then proceeded to say how my mother was a horrible mom for letting me come in public while in pajamas. I realized she probably thought I was younger because I had been mistaken to be around 16, 18. I also don't know this woman, and she didn't know my mom. My aunt thankfully arrived, and the woman started to go into her thinking she was my mom and criticizing her. My aunt just stared at her before saying, "I'm their aunt. Their mother just passed away 2 days ago." It had been longer, but the lady didn't seem to know that. So I think that OP is allowed to still wear pajamas in public. The lady looked like she swallowed a lemon and quickly left. My aunt and I finished getting our stuff, and we saw the lady again at checkout, and she didn't look at us. I'm just surprised someone cares that much. I don't think a single time in my life I have felt the need to go up and comment on someone's attire in a grocery store. I'm there to pick up milk and toilet paper and leave, okay? It really ain't that deep. Are you pregnant? No, I am 14. A couple of years ago when I, 14F, was at the traveling fair with my family, I decided to go on one of those kiddie roller coasters with my little siblings. The person who was running the ride muttered something as I was trying to get on and refused to let me pass. I thought he was saying, "Are you the parent?" But then he repeated himself, "Are you pregnant?" I was too shocked to respond for a few seconds, but then I awkwardly said, I'm 14. That's not an appropriate question," and moved on. He looked embarrassed for a total of 3 seconds before he scoffed and moved on talking to the next person. I didn't think much of it. I was clearly upset about it, but willing to shrug it off so I wouldn't make a scene. He was clearly uncomfortable, but he still didn't apologize or anything. I wasn't about to demand an apology as the socially awkward kid that I was, so I figured I could just leave it at that. But my brother was not having it. He told my mom and she was livid. She immediately stormed over to the customer service area. The office? I don't know what to call it. But she ended up getting our trip fully paid and we got a free ticket for the next time. Oh yes indeed, she put on her mom power Karen. Hell yes, sometimes that is perfectly valid depending on the context. Go mom. But my mom didn't think that was enough. The manager ended up forcing the ride operator to personally apologize in front of my mom and a few of his coworkers. He was clearly embarrassed, but I didn't care. He deserved it. We bought some cotton candy and mini donuts and didn't go back. For those saying that the employee was correct in asking, no, he wasn't. Fairs and amusement parks are required by law to put up signs warning customers with certain medical conditions to not ride the rides or continue with extreme caution. These signs not only warn the public but protect the company from being sued if the customer decides to ride it anyway and gets injured. That's why the signs are there. As long as those signs are there, the company is protected from being sued. They warn the public like they should have, and if the public doesn't listen, it's no longer their responsibility. Yeah, it feels like that kind of thing where it's like you put up the warning things and then people have to make their own decisions, but also if they harm themselves because they didn't follow the health regulations, then it's kind of on the person itself. It doesn't mean that every employer should ask about your entire medical history because you're standing in line at a fair, you know? So that kind of makes sense. That is also why we have wet floor signs. We don't want people to fall over, of course, but it also protects the company if someone does slip and fall. You can't sue them because there was a sign there warning you of wet floor. That employee was 100% in the wrong for asking it and was completely inappropriate. What is he gonna do? Ask every single woman and girl who goes into the line asking if they're pregnant? The boss handled it correctly, and hopefully the employee didn't ask anyone again. It's not his responsibility and it's not his job. His job is to secure the passengers and control the ride. Anything else is entirely up to the customer. Legally, it's called the assumption of risk. Now, some states may have different laws and restrictions, but generally it's required. Yeah, I don't know how it works in every state or every country for that matter, but it also makes sense that, a random employee at a fair isn't required to ask about your entire medical history. That's kind of on you to read the signs about what is and isn't recommended for a certain ride or activity. Oh, you're back from maternity leave? I used to work in a big-name thrift retail store, and I was always at the registers. And I would always have to deal with this lady who was snarky and very entitled about second-hand items and their pricing, which I had nothing to do with. I had been there about 6 or 7 months, and this woman was always a pain in my butt. I would hear boss music in my head whenever I saw her coming to the registers.
You get a fucking Dark Souls health bar? It's like second-hand Karen. Oh dear God.
She never bothered to ask my name or even make small talk with me. She was getting really annoying, and I was completely burned out from her and other entitled customers, inflicting mental and emotional damage. Luckily, I accrued some vacation time, yay, and I spent roughly a week and a half away from work, because I timed it up with my days off. Well, I come back completely refreshed and ready to go. I need to add at that time I was roughly around 170-180 pound mark in terms of my weight, the lowest I had been in years. Still chunky in the stomach area, but I managed to wear it well. Or at least, I hope I did. The day I come back, I'm at the register and here comes that lady walking up, and she kinda gives me an indifferent but surprised look. But this time, she actually said something to me first instead of me saying the normal greeting stuff. "Hi, how are you? Is this all?" She says to me,
"Oh, I didn't realize you were back so soon from your maternity leave."
I'm kinda like, huh? And she goes,
"Oh, I thought you took some time to take care of your baby."
Mind you, there were no pregnant women working at the time at my job, and hadn't been since I had been hired on. I saw this woman every day for several months, and not once had I mentioned having kids. I don't. Or being pregnant. So I kind of laugh it off and say, I think you may be thinking of someone else. And she replied with,
"No, I'm pretty sure it was you." "Are you sure?"
Hey, are you sure? You didn't just forget giving birth last week? You know? Something that's small, you know, I can just slip your mind spontaneously?
I laughed it off again and just said, nope, not pregnant, never have been, I am just fat. The silence was so loud, Lemau. There were a few customers behind her, and I happened to look over at one lady in line and she looked absolutely gobsmacked, but didn't say anything. I finished the lady's items and checked her out, and not once did she say anything to me, even after I told her to have a good day.
And also just the doubling down, like, oh, are you sure you didn't give birth? Like, yeah, that's the kind of stuff you usually miss, isn't it?
I wanted to laugh so damn bad after that interaction, but I waited until I was in the break room and told my coworkers about it. After that, the lady never made small talk with me again, lemafau. I hope she learned her lesson about assuming things.
I mean, the assumption is really weird, but I find the most outrageous part to be that she's doubling down. It's like, no, I can't possibly be wrong. You must have forgotten that you had a child. That is absolutely amazing.
The perfect mom at school pickup. At my son's school, there is a mom who constantly shames other parents for
bad parenting.
she makes loud comments like,
Some people really don't care what their kids eat.
if she sees chips, or
No wonder your child struggles.
if she spots a messy backpack. One day, she came late to pick up, clearly frazzled. Her kid ran up to my son and loudly asked,
Why does mommy sleep at Mr. Jason's house when daddy is at work?
I didn't miss a beat. I looked at her, smiled and said, oh, so that's the parenting style you were talking about. She doesn't talk to me anymore.
Holy kids have such savage honesty sometimes. Oh my fucking god.
You could have just believed me. I was a chronically ill kid. I looked normal, but I was in pain all the time, and I threw up after most meals. Freshman year of high school, I had gym immediately after lunch, and the teacher hated me. I would leave during class most days to be sick for 10 or 20 minutes, and she just didn't believe me. It drove me crazy because I was a child athlete. I was in 4 competitive sports from age 5 to 13, so when I was up to participating, I was really good. One day, I felt sick and was trying to run to the restroom, but she wouldn't let me. She stood there yelling at me in front of the class and refused to even let me go to the trash can 10 feet away. So I threw up all over her fancy gym shoes. I truly didn't mean to, but I am so glad I did. The look on her face was priceless. My mom made me give her a gift card to Payless for some new shoes, but she never stopped me from leaving ever again. Edit clarifying here that I'm not mad at my mom about the gift card because I get it now. It was a $20 gift card to Payless shoes, and there were probably $60 or $70 shoes from a sporting goods store. My mom was trying to make a point and explicitly told me not to apologize when giving her the gift card.
I mean, yeah, that's smart. It's like a small peace offering, but also being like, I'm not gonna apologize because I wasn't in the wrong, but I'm willing to meet you halfway on this as a peace offering. That's pretty reasonable. I kinda like your mom.
Bratty kids on flight. I was on a flight in a window seat, and there was a family behind me with kid number 1 in the window seat and kid number 2 in the middle, and a pathetic mother in the aisle. Before we even took off, bratty kid number 1 was kicking the back of my seat and slamming the tray table open and closed. He got really mad at takeoff when the tray table had to be locked up right. As soon as we hit altitude, the kid started banging his forehead on the entertainment screen while the mother just barely made constant comments to him to stop.
Oh my god.
He replied back that he was going to
Do it even harder!
So I timed power reclining my seat back super hard and quick, just as he smashed his head into the entertainment screen.
The cracking sound was super loud, followed by moaning.
I have to say that it was the highlight of that entire week's business trip.
Honestly, maybe it was a favor to the mom as well. She was obviously kind of done with it as well. It's like, oh, thank God my kid bashed his head a bit too hard and now it finally shut up.
Like, obviously, I'm not justifying being physical with kids or whatever, but sometimes people in general, not just kids, need like a little bit of consequence to realize that,
oh, this wasn't a smart idea. If I keep bashing my head into this chair, if someone else moves the chair while I'm bashing my head in it, maybe it ends up being a bit too hard, you know? God, man, some kids are so dumb, I swear to God. Some adults too, though, to be fair.
Real men don't cry. Oh, really? At my uncle's funeral, my cousin, 40M, started sobbing, and another relative, 50M, muttered loudly,
Racist. Real men don't cry.
I stood up, turned around and said, "That's funny, considering the last thing Uncle ever said to me was how much he wished that you had shown him just a little more love." The whole room went silent, and he actually left the service. My cousin hugged me and cried harder. 10 out of 10 worth it. Policing people's emotions at a funeral. I'ma be honest, man, if I were to rank things that I deem to be like masculine or badass or whatever, policing other people's emotions at a funeral isn't particularly alpha, if you ask me. Religious guilt backfired. I was really shy growing up, and always the obedient girl that will listen to anyone and never talk back. When I was new to the country, 10 years old, I never talked to anyone, basically just my family and Muslim leaders. One man was closer to my dad and would often come over. He was respected, and my family would trust me alone with him. He went from very friendly to touchy at times. I thought it was normal. One night alone, he took things further. I don't want to get into details, but we ended up alone and he coerced me to do things. He would bring up things like having to listen to elders and not to say anything. Wow, this reads like an entire stereotype, doesn't it? Ew. Saying Allah would want me to listen, which at that time I was doing anyways. A few days after, I am not sure what courage sprung into me that day, but during a meeting of adults in the mosque, I asked one of the adults if it was normal for the activity that man did to me. They were all in shock, and of course he tried to deny it. Let's just say I gave them enough details that they knew it couldn't be made up. It was never brought up with cops or anything like that in the end, but honestly I'm still proud that I was strong enough to speak out. That is so incredibly dark. I do hope you're feeling okay nowadays and that the adults around you took it seriously. Cops should definitely have been involved, but at the very least it sounds like the people around you had your back in it and actually believed you. But oh my god, that is so dark. People like this are absolutely disgusting. Grandma Gossip is probably fired after her first day. About a decade ago, I suffered a traumatic event that was highly publicized in my small community. Even years later, the news runs stories rehashing what happened to me. It makes it really hard to carry on with my life. However, in my everyday world, it's rarely mentioned. When I'm asked questions about it, I usually answer them if it's coming from a genuine person. Yesterday, I was training a new hire on my team. Out of nowhere, she asked if I had heard about that thing that happened a few years ago. I just nodded and tried refocusing her to the job at hand, but she kept pushing, so I let her talk and listen to her gossip about my trauma as if she had first-hand information. She exaggerated so much and had almost every part of it wrong. I was so pissed and stunned. I finally interrupted her and said, "You're talking about me, Alice. I am the person in that story." And walked away. Her mouth dropped open and she tried mumbling an apology, but I walked away. At the end of the day, I informed her that she is not to report to work again until she hears from HR. I couldn't believe this 70-year-old woman had the audacity to attempt gossip with her boss on her first freaking day without having the slightest idea about what she was talking about. Oh, I have a perfect reaction image for some of these posts. It got weird in here. Some people have the audacity, and they are not entitled to have that sort of audacity. Well, laddies, lasses, and lassos, I do hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed having you. I hope you have a rest of a wonderful day and time wherever time is you live, and I will see you again in the very near future. Take care. Mwah.